Welcome back to I'm No Expert, episode number 4. Today I have the most coolest guest that I've had on yet. Sorry, all the other guests that came on before. The man has literally taken on mountains, literally Mount Everest, and he is also a professional, international hairdresser by profession, but does so many more things. Johann, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. I mean, it really is an honor for us, for all of us here at I'm No Expert. And just to kind of understand what exactly it means to be a man that has literally taken on mountains, but also be a hairdresser at the same time, that juxtaposition, that it's not done. It's not done at all.
So that's the thing about this, I think it's doing things out of the box, thinking out of the box and really taking on challenges that don't fit within this box. And still to date, there are people who come up to me and says, are you the same guy the hairdresser and the climber? Are you all the same? Yes, and it's still a thing that people can't believe. So when I came back, I found out, to my surprise, that I happened to be the first hairdresser in the world who had actually climbed.
And you didn't know that before you did it?
I didn't know. And they actually honored me in Peries at the World Hairdressing Federation as the first hairdresser who took on Mount Everest.
Let's go.
That's and awesome. It was crazy. So somehow, like you said, it doesn't fit. But it is what it is.
Yeah. That's interesting, right? Like that we think about certain things like, oh, this doesn't fit.
Yeah.
But And you never looked at it from that way either. You never looked at, oh, just because I am a professional hairdresser / musician / all these other things that you do, you never looked at it saying, oh, I shouldn't be somebody that actually summits Everest.
No, absolutely not. And even being the first two Sri Lankans when we went the first time, that also wasn't a thing with us. We just used it to our advantage, because we had to do other things. We had to find sponsors and do that whole aspect of the whole run up to the climb itself.
Tell me about that, actually. Tell me about, like, what does that mean? So you being a Sri Lankan, what did you have to go through to actually get to that point of summiting Everest? Like, were there other things that people from other countries didn't have to actually go through? Like you and Jay did?
Yeah, so I think it was a real challenge for us because, first of all, nobody believed that a Sri Lankan could actually do it because we come from an island. We are from a sea level.
Oh.
And our highest point here in this country is 8,100 feet, which is lower than where we start climbing Mount Everest.
What is the starting point of Everest?
So we start our climb to base camp from 9,100 feet, just to base camp.
Right.
It's already higher than what we have here.
Yeah.
And people didn't think that we could do it. And then the next thing was that they looked at the two of us.
Right.
And looked like two ordinary people. Right? There was nothing special about it. We were not these big hulks who were trying to go up. And they said, no way.
Yeah,
these two guys are crazy. They're not going to come back. Yeah, so that was the thought, and that was the process that we had to go through.
Yeah. Was that fuel for you though, when people said, oh, I don't think this guy can do it?
Yes, it was. There is sometimes, the negativity that comes out of it that actually works towards your benefit.
Yeah.
So I used that.
Nice.
I used that, and I am somebody who's quite positive. So I wasn't going to give up. I was going to push through.
Yeah.
And one way or the other, I was going to go through and do it, and that's what happened.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's sick. I like that you like people that looked at it, because even when I look at you, like as my friend, when I first met you, I was like, oh, you're the hairdresser. You're like the international hairdresser. And then when I find out that you've done all of these other things, like climbing mountains, like also a very good singer, by the way. Yes, I've heard is a very good singer. I'm just surprised that it's surprising, but it also breaks and shatters my reality of like what is right? Like, because we look at certain things and we're like, oh, that person is a very like fit, strong climber, because you have a certain vision of what that person is supposed to look like, but you're shattering that as you go, and you're still shattering that because you not only have taken on Everest, but now you're taking on 7 summits around the world, correct?
That's right. It's the highest point in every continent, the 7 continents around the world. Yeah.
And where are you at right now?
Well, I did 6. I've done 6.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the last one I did or one before the last one I did was Mount Denali, which was in North America, in Alaska. And after 20 days, on the final day when we were about to summit, they said that there was a storm coming in and we had to turn back. So unfortunately, due to unforeseen conditions, we had to turn back. And I think I've got to go back there and do that again.
Yeah, I mean, that's not something that's that you've not done before, like how you climbed Everest the second time.
Exactly. So I think I'm quite familiar with going back and taking on the challenge all over again, even though it's tough. And then I have Antarctica to complete.
Ooh. Tell me about that, Antarctica. Well, what do you have to do there?
Well, I think the biggest challenge about Antarctica is actually getting there. That's the biggest challenge, because there are two ways of getting there. One is on a ship, on a barge.
Okay. How many days is that?
There. I think it's about a week, but I'm not even looking at that.
Right.
Because I'm looking at the other option. So when you go to climb, the mountain is called Mount Vincent.
Right.
And that you can actually go on one of the supply planes that takes stuff to, they have the research centers there.
Okay.
In different countries.
Yeah.
And you can get on one of those. They take you on that plane, and then you take you to the research center, and then you go from there.
Right. I've also heard that they have like these type of Noah's Ark type of facilities where they hold DNA of animals, and like, is that true? Have you heard of this?
No, I've heard.
Yeah.
I have heard of that, but I don't know. I don't know how far it's true. So that's also another intriguing part of the whole journey, which you will delve into that, you will look into that, you will research. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that and going there.
What's the weirdest thing that you've ever, well, I wouldn't say the weirdest, the most bizarre thing that you encountered when you were summiting Everest the second time? Or the first time, whichever.
So I think, there's everything that they prepare you with. We had to talk to people who had summited Everest. We had to talk to, the big guys, because we had nobody here to get advice from. And one of the things that they kept telling us is about the reality of death. Yeah. And you keep hearing it and you think, okay, you can get knocked down by a bus when you're walking on the road. So it really doesn't, it's the same thing.
Being in Sri Lanka.
Jogging on the road, cycling, all those challenges are there.
Yeah.
But they keep telling you this, and then when you actually get there, so this is at the back of your head and the back of your mind, but actually when you get there and when you start seeing the first body, and when you actually face death,
like a dead body.
Right? And that really hits you. It brings reality into you, and then you realize, oh my gosh, this is real. And death is real on the mountain. And there were so many other incidents where I saw somebody fall off, went right past me. And I was shattered that day. I just couldn't even talk. I just locked myself in my tent and I just broke down, and I thought, what am I doing here? So those are the really bizarre things that you actually face there. And it really gets into you. It gets into your skin. And you have to really face it. You have to that's why we keep saying that the challenge of climbing Mount Everest is only about 40% physical. The rest of it is all mental, because it is. It is a huge mental challenge. And that really gets to you at that point. When
you were doing it, I've heard at this point, I've heard there are people that, when you're climbing up Everest, you would pass by people who are saying that I will want to take some rest, or I'm tired. Have you encountered people like that are just like, oh, you guys go ahead, I'm just going to take some rest right now?
Lots of them. And, once you pass a certain point, they drill it into your head, they get it into your system that you're on your own. You can't try to help anybody else, because you are entering the dead zone. And once you enter the dead zone, your body starts shutting down. So you have a limited time. And you have to do whatever you have to do within that time period and then come back. If you can't, you have to turn back, because otherwise you'll be in the same situation. So we passed so many people. There was one lady who had sprained her ankle, and she was left there. They said that they were coming back for her, but at the back of her mind, we knew that might not be true. It's just to please her. Then there was another guy who asked me for help. And I actually couldn't help him. There was no help that I could have given him. And that was on the way up on the last bit. And then it was a Dutch guy there. And then when I came back, the first thing I did was, as I came to Camp 4, I asked them what happened to him. And he had just died. He just passed away. And I couldn't deal with that. I struggled when I came back. Yeah. I think it's a form of PTSD, you know.
Absolutely.
And I had to get help as well when I came back, because I kept seeing this guy. I had nightmares. So it's all very traumatic, and it's a completely different experience to what people would think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. There's so much more that you have to consider when you're taking on these giant feats.
Yeah.
That people wish they could do what you would do, but there's so much more that comes with it. With the wheat comes the tares at the same time. With victory comes
exactly.
the other side.
And people, I think lots of people don't understand, because here, like I said earlier, being in an island, people don't know the gravity and the challenges that you face.
Right.
So I remember one of the guys at the gym where I was training before I went.
Yeah.
When one of the guys was trying to make a huge hype about it and said, let's follow the last week, and these guys are just about to hit the summit, and it was all over the news and all that. And this guy turned around and said, what's the big deal? I've climbed Adam's Peak so many times, you know. And that was the comparison.
Man.
It's just ignorance, I think, and people don't know, and you can't help it.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it is. So
yeah. Once you engage in like the actual task, you start to realize, like, man, this is so much more than I actually asked for.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like in anything, with whatever we ask in life, we never know what you're actually asking for, whether it's, you know, an award, or whether it's certain, you know, getting to a certain stage in your career. You never know what else comes with that, and if you're ready to deal with that as well.
Exactly. You ask for things, and then you don't know whether you can cope up with it.
Yep. Yes. And then you're like, why is this happening to me? Right?
Absolutely.
But you came out of it, I would like to think, unscathed, because, or came with all of this extra stuff that you didn't want, but you've healed yourself in the process as you've moved forward. So that's a feat in itself. Tell me about you taking people up to Everest now. I've heard that you're gathering some group of people from Sri Lanka, and from around the world as well, or is it just from Sri Lanka that are going with you to Everest?
So most of them, majority are from Sri Lanka. So when you say Everest, I need to correct that first. It's Everest Base Camp.
Everest Base Camp, because that would be risky. It's like, first timers, let's go to Everest. Yeah.
No, so it's Everest Base Camp, and going to Everest is got it all mixed up now. Going to Everest Base Camp is also a challenge. It's a huge challenge. I remember when I did in 2010, you know, it was like summiting Everest. Yeah. It was as big as summiting Everest. The way we prepared and the mentality we had, the way we had to prepare ourselves mentally. So here again, that's what I'm doing with the group here. Yeah. I'm preparing them. We're taking them for training. I'm telling them things that they need to do, breathing techniques that they've got to learn and they've got to adapt to, preparing themselves with the right equipment and the clothing. So all that has become a part of this whole journey. Yeah. There are, most of the majority are from Sri Lanka. There's one Indian who's living in Sri Lanka. Okay. And there's another Sri Lankan in Australia who's flying in to go with us as well. Nice. So it's nice. It's bringing people together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
like-minded people.
Very true. Yeah. What, from your experience climbing to base camp the first time, what sort of challenge, like, can you give us like a vision of what that kind of looks like? Because I've seen some of the footage from when I was watching some of the footage from your GoPro, summiting Everest, like, I was like, whoa, these look crazy. And you were like, oh, that's just like the path to base camp. I was like, what? Like, because there's like bridges and stuff you still cross, right? Yeah.
So there are long suspension bridges that you have to cross, you know. So if you have a problem with height, that's a bit of an issue. There's a path. There is a path, but the path can be a little treacherous as well, because, you know, there can be elevation gain within a day. So there is a certain amount of elevation gain that you have, and that can really affect your body. So you've got to really be prepared for that. And the secret, the big secret about, or the main secret about climbing or getting to Everest Base Camp is taking it slow. If you think that you're on a race and you want to beat somebody, that's it. You might as well not go. So that's a disaster. So it's taking it slow, letting your body adapt, acclimatize your body as you go along, and take it slow and then get there. But there again, when you're going, you see people suffering with altitude sickness. You see people being lifted out.
Yeah.
And it's reality.
What does like altitude sickness look like?
So first thing that you do is you start getting headaches.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you start feeling nauseous. Yeah. So you start throwing up. And if you don't, consider those symptoms and you keep pushing. So what happens first is you will start getting cerebral edema, where you start collecting fluid. Pulmonary edema, where you start getting fluid in your lungs.
Oh, wow.
And if you ignore that, so the only cure for this is to come down.
Okay.
You have to drop down 500 meters immediately.
Whoa.
Right? So you immediately turn around and come. And nobody can tell you this. Only you will know what you're going through.
Right.
So you got to be honest with yourself. Yeah. So lots of people think, no, I can do this and push.
Right.
And then what happens is you can end up with cerebral edema.
Okay.
And that's fluid in the brain.
Yeah.
And once that happens, it's deadly.
Game
you
over.
can die in 24 hours.
Dang.
Yeah. So you've got to be rushed down. You've got to be put in an oxygen tank, you
Yeah.
know, in an oxygen bed, they call it. So lots of things have to be done really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got to be honest to yourself. You've got to realize what your body can take and really prepare yourself and know yourself as you move along.
Yeah.
And be honest.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of your example of honesty to yourself was the first time you attempted to summit Mount Everest, you couldn't make it up to the top. Why?
So there were lots of reasons that were shared in the press, in the news and everything else, you know.
Let's set the record straight.
Yes.
Yeah.
That I was sick and, you know, I was all kinds of things. That I gave my oxygen tank to Janti and all kinds of rubbish like that, you know. But the actual thing is that, you know, there's a point called the balcony.
Okay.
Where we do a switch of the oxygen tank when you're going to the summit.
Okay.
Yeah. And it happens really fast because there's a line waiting behind you to go. And you can't spend too much of time. You really have to do this quick change of the oxygen tank. And when they did that tank, the change in the tank, they switched it to a wrong tank.
They mean the Sherpa.
The Sherpa had put a half-used tank on me.
Oh.
Yeah. And yes, that's exactly what happened.
Right.
And then when I got to the south summit, which was just 400 meters more to go, I was looking at the summit, which was just there. It looked as if I could touch it. And he came and told me that I can't go, that I don't have enough oxygen when you check my meter. And of course, being very, very honest, my human side took over at that point. And my immediate reaction was, I don't care. I'm going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glory.
I came here. Yes, exactly.
For glory.
Yeah. I don't care. I'll be a dead hero. It doesn't matter. I want to go there.
Yeah.
And I did that and I started going, and then he came and he pleaded with me. He got people on radio to talk to me and convince me. They started putting guilt in me and saying, think about your family and the loved ones you left behind and, you know, all that. And this, you might not be able to make it back. So I had enough oxygen to get to the summit. Right. But I hadn't enough to come back. Yeah. It was a huge decision I had to make. It is, I think, the hardest decision I have made in my life. And I waited for a while. I told him, I said, just leave me alone. So I had to sit down. Yeah. I had to really get my thoughts together. And thank God we've been taught well, about life. Yes. And then I had to weigh the pros and cons. And I realized that we've always been taught that life is the most important thing. Absolutely. Yeah. And we've got to think about life. And then I thought, you know what? However hard it is, I'm turning back. Yeah. Yeah. The mountain's not going anywhere. Yeah. And I decided to turn back. Yeah. Yeah. And then so Jayanti was the first female from Sri Lanka and the first Sri Lankan to make it. The first Sri Lankan. Right. Yeah, to go. To make it up top. To make it up to the summit because she was ahead of me. She didn't know that all this had happened. Yeah. And she was already there. Yeah. Halfway to the summit. Yeah. Between that point. And till she came back to Camp 4, she didn't even know that I had made it. She actually thought that I had already gone and come down. Wow. Yeah, because in every other rotation, I used to overtake her and make it to the other point before her. So she thought I had done the same and I had come back and I was waiting for her. Right. And then I had to break the news to her that I didn't make it.
Yeah. Finding your next nutrient-dense meal is really tough when you're on the road or you're working really long hours during filmmaking season or whatever it is that you're doing. KION has been with me since day one with its essential amino acids or its whey protein. I'm feeling great 100% while I'm on the road. So if you want to check him out, hit him up on KION.com. The link is in the description below, or use the coupon code Jason plus KION for your goodness on your next basket. Would it be a goodness basket? It's a goodness basket. KION.com. Tell me about that choice. So that choice meant, like you said, the hardest decision that you've ever made. That choice to choose life, come back down. That choice didn't end there, though. You still had to keep choosing, because like in honesty, when you come back, and does it sit weird with you? Like, I could have done it, or I should have done it, or when you're seeing the press and you're like, oh, like, did you feel like this is maybe I made the wrong choice, maybe I made the right choice? Like, did you battle that at the same time when you came back to Sri Lanka?
So to a great extent, we did this whole thing because we liked it and we wanted to do this, right? But we didn't know what was happening back at home. We didn't know that it was a big thing here, that it was breaking out all over the news and they were following us, and this whole thing happened. But one of the things that Janti and I both decided there was she also sat down with me and she said, we didn't do this alone. We did this together as a team. Right. Yeah. And it's like a cricket team going and, two batsmen. Yeah. The best batsman can get out in the match, but if they win the tournament, yes, the whole team wins. Yes. So she said it's like that, we are going back victorious because we've done this because we came together as a team. Absolutely. And that was the thought we came back with. Nice. So when we landed at the airport here, there was a press waiting. Everybody was here. The Prime Minister came, and we didn't know all this, right? Yeah. We came back here, and then suddenly, the first question everybody kept asking was, "Will you go back?" Ooh. Right? And like directed at you. Straight at me. Yeah. And they said, we know that you didn't make it and whatever, but will you go back and do it? Yeah. And my answer was never. I would never go back. Right? Because I knew what it was and I knew how hard it was. I saw death in front of me. Right? And there were different situations that I was in. I was caught in an avalanche. Yeah. Ooh, wow. And I thought I was done at that point. So there were so many different situations, and I thought I'm never going back. Yeah. And that was the truth. But there were lots of other sort of situations also that added on to this. We were taken to radio stations, we were taken to the news stations, we were being rushed off here, rushed off there over the next few weeks. Right. We were being invited by corporates to speak and share our story. And this became a huge thing. And, there were places that I think it's the human side of it, the sort of human side of looking at things as well. There were times that I was removed out of the pictures, because I hadn't made it. Wow. Yeah. We all together, we are standing there and they would come and move me aside and say, can we have you out of this picture? Yeah. Yeah. So it was a huge mental challenge for me even after I came back. Yeah. Yeah. But that's where your ego comes into play as well. And you have to really be humble yourself. And for me, I looked at this as a humbling process. Wow. Yeah. The whole thing was a humbling process for me. Yeah. Right. And you really need to humble yourself at a situation like this. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. To go there and be able to turn back. Yeah. Itself. To realize that we are only this small. Yeah, we are so tiny, we are so minute compared to the magnitude that's out there, the nature. And we can't battle nature. Yeah, we can't come against nature. So that's why we most often don't use the word conquering, because we can't conquer nature. Yeah. Yeah, we always use the word summiting. Yeah, and we say we don't conquer, but we summit. I love that. Because you can't conquer nature. Yeah. And and then of course, 6 months went by and this feeling kept creeping into me, and I thought, can I live with this for the rest of my life? Yeah. And I decided I could go back and finish what I started. So 2016 and then 2018, you're back up there again. Yes. How was this experience different from the first time you climbed and then you're taking on the challenge again? The biggest challenge was to convince my family. That is a big one. There was this huge campaign because for a moment they thought that they had lost me when I didn't make it, because the message that came to Sri Lanka was, he didn't make it. Right? And that sat for about 6 hours.
Yeah.
Till another message came saying he's okay. Yeah. So when Sajida got the message, she was the one who was dealing with everything. The message that was given was, he didn't make it. And the guy cut the line. Right? So everybody, when later on we learned that even amongst TV stations, there was this news going saying, he's gone. They lost him. Yeah, he fell into a crevice. They said that I was caught in something. I fell off the mountain, kinds of things.
Where are they getting?
Exactly. So all this went, and I died of altitude sickness and all kinds of things. But they couldn't report it because it was an unconfirmed report.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They had to wait for Sajida to give the okay to go ahead with it. And she was holding on to this, praying and hoping that it wasn't true. Yeah. Till she then got a call saying, he's down to Camp 2, he's okay.
Right.
Yeah. And then only she breathed a sigh of relief.
Wow.
So those were the sort of, challenges that everyone here had to go through.
Yeah.
So when I had to go back, the first thing was to get over that hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That I'm going back into the same situation that I was in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But of course I managed to overcome that. And now I knew what my challenges were. So I was able to prepare myself different.
Yeah.
And really prepare myself more than I had done the year before. And the next time in 2018, I really, really enjoyed my climb more than anything else. I knew what to expect. I knew what my challenges were. And I just enjoyed the climb so much so that the same manager of the team who was there at base camp said, "Oh my God, what have you done to yourself? You're climbing so different this time. You're just going up there, Yeah. And everybody else had ordered an extra can of oxygen.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, because per can of oxygen, it's like, how much is
$6,500
per can?
Just one can.
Wow. Right. And how many do you go through?
So you're given 2 cans on summit day.
Okay.
That's what you are allocated.
Right.
And then you have a couple of cans before that as well.
Yeah.
But lots of them had ordered extra can as well to keep standby because from Camp 3 to Camp 4 also a lot of them were using oxygen.
Yeah.
Where I didn't use oxygen. Yeah. So he said, "Why do you need it?
Yeah.
Just go.
Yeah.
You're doing fine."
Nice.
And I felt that I did better the second time.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because it didn't stop with Everest, and this thing with you and climbing has been there since you were a child, right? Like, this has been something you've been doing with your dad. Yes. You've done this Knuckles mountain range, is that right?
That's where I started off. Most of
it
started there. Yeah. And I used to go with my dad when I was small in school.
Right.
And we used to camp out, we used to do this, do these challenging climbs. And it was a big thing at that time as well for me. And so it started off from there, and then I wanted to take it one notch higher, to a different level. And then I started going out of the country.
Interesting.
Yeah, and doing things, and that's where it all started.
Has this climbing thing ever been, because you are a professional international hairdresser, stylist, designer, all of the above. Has climbing ever taken you away from that, or has it been something that's actually helped you get better at being this designer? So
it's funny. When people ask me that, I always, they say, "What's the connection?" But people look at things in different ways. And for me, I draw a lot of my inspiration from nature. Yeah, I feel a connection when I'm out there. The colors that I see, the forms that I see, the proportions that I see, everything, I try to draw from those. I used to do a bit of snorkeling and all that as well. And, some of the colors that you see underneath the ocean, or on a reef, are colors that you would never imagine that would go together. And I used to come back and I used to use those in my designs. Yeah, they were fascinating when you see them outside and when you bring it to reality. Yeah, so I used to use that, and I used to draw from nature for my inspiration, and that was my way of connecting the two together.
Right.
And it never took me away. And in a way, I never wanted to give up my hairdressing and my designing and all that. That has only grown from this. Yeah, and I think it's given me a different perspective.
Right.
Yeah, to my work and to life on the whole, on a whole.
Right. So you're a very fit hairstylist / designer that can literally climb out. I mean, who else can say my hairstylist / designer has climbed Everest or summited Everest, and they're literally cutting my hair which is a cool thing to say. That's bragging rights for sure. When it comes to you and your hairdressing career, where did that all start? Why hairdressing of all things? Because you're a creative of all sorts. I've seen you design things at parties, and there's this beautiful explosion of flowers. There's so many great things that I've seen that you've done, but why hairdressing of all things?
So I actually wanted to do architecture. That was something that I wanted to do.
Okay.
Which is also in the design aspect of things. But just after doing my A-levels, I just got a short opportunity while waiting for my results to actually go and do hairdressing. And hairdressing was something that really fascinated me. Yeah, I used to watch things and I used to be fascinated, and I used to wonder how they do this. So I got an opportunity just to do it for 3 months. And once I went in, I just loved it so much that I never wanted to give up. And I have no regrets today that I took to that.
Yeah.
Because I still love what I'm doing. I enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're literally on the cutting floor. Is that what you call it?
Yes.
The cutting floor.
Yes, I'm on the floor. I'm
You're
on the
floor.
job.
Yeah.
I'm hands-on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hands-on. I'm there full-time doing my thing. But with that, I also didn't give up the other side of me. I design things. I design I help people to design houses,
Nice.
offices, so that side is also there.
Yeah.
And, very much more than that as well.
Fair enough. So when it comes to you have your space in Sri Lanka, you also have your space in Australia, and you're doing all of these multiple businesses. I know they're kind of the same thing, but they're also multiple businesses at the same time. How do you find the time to balance that out, plus do your climbing, which takes literally, I think, half of the year to get prepared for? How are you balancing all of this out?
So I think the one word to that is commitment. Yeah, you have to be committed.
Yeah.
You're 100% committed. And I think all of us, I know it's a Sri Lankan thing, but I think it's all over with everybody around the world. We are very good at making excuses. Yeah.
So
the
true.
easiest thing is to make an excuse.
Absolutely.
I have no time. I can't manage this. I can't manage that. And so many things that we can make excuses about. But I feel that you can't make excuses. You have to, if you take on something, you've got to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you've got to do it, and you've got to commit yourself to do it. Whatever time I come in the night, if I have to go for training in the morning, I'll go. Yeah, I have to be there. I have to be there at 5 o'clock. I'll be there at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got to keep your focus, and you've got to plan yourself out, and be at it. That's about it.
It's that intention, right? It's so intentional.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you
Sharp
have
focus.
the intention, work towards it, commitment and perseverance. You have to really persevere and move forward. And I feel that you can achieve most things in life
Right.
that you dreamed of.
Yeah, I fully agree. And you're not, one of the things that I've noticed about you is, and by the way, I've trained with Johann. He does not, the 5 o'clock is the 5 o'clock. It's there's no oh, today is not a day that we're going to train. It's training day. There's never been a day when we used to train together, at least.
Those are fun times.
Those are good times. That was us training for Ironman, right?
That's right.
That
yes.
was a good time.
Yes.
So with your hairstyling, designing, as well as the mountain climbing, you're bringing people along with you.
Yes.
And you're doing some work here in Sri Lanka with the kind of reaching out to the other communities outside of Colombo in different areas of Sri Lanka, and you're impacting them with the hair designing. Can you tell me a bit about that, what you're doing out there in terms of impacting lives and teaching them how to actually enter this industry as well?
Yeah, it's also it's for beginners and also for people who are also in the industry. So hairdressing actually was one of the fastest growing small industries in this country.
Really?
About 15 years ago.
Okay.
And with that, there was this huge expansion that took place. And always with a kind of a boom like that, one of the things that happens is standards drop.
Interesting.
Yeah, standards always drop. Yeah, you tend to compromise. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give back, because now I've been in the business for 36 years now.
Wow.
And I want to give back something as well.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to go to those communities that are out there who don't have the opportunity, who don't get the exposure, right, to actually give them back and teach them so that they would be of some standard and they would reach a certain standard. So that's what we're doing, and we have this project that we've started where we go out to the communities. Yeah, it's an outreach project which we've done, and it's called the Passion Recipe Project.
Nice.
Which we started through WOW, and through that I'm trying to go out there, give back. I have been doing it before, but I think we're doing it in a different sort of format and a different way that we are running the whole program.
Yeah.
And I find that really satisfying when you actually see people wanting so much. They wait for it. They are sort of hungry for it.
Yeah.
And it really gives you self-satisfaction also to give back.
Yeah.
For me, that's what it has been.
What's a cool encounter from interacting with communities that, we either usually wouldn't even like interact with apart from like unless you're traveling? Like what is one of the coolest encounters that you've had when you're doing one of these workshops in these areas?
So it's actually getting to know them and getting to know their lifestyle. Yeah, their lifestyle and how they compromise, and they don't have half the things that we have. Some of the things that we have, the equipment and in terms of products.
Right. Yeah.
But then how they compromise and how they work with what they have.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how with limited resources, how they are able also to achieve and come to a certain standard.
Yeah.
So that's where we can come in and try to see, not just to, try and tell them that you need to change your way of working, you need to get different products, but to see how they can use what they have, the resources that they have, and make them better.
Absolutely.
And become better in what they do.
Yeah. And at some point creating your own style with that.
It's all about creativity.
Yeah.
It's by being yourself and expanding yourself
with what you have.
With what you have around you.
Yeah. I think I approach that. There's a similar approach to filmmaking with me as well. Like everywhere else in the world, you do have the opportunity to have access to this different type of gear when you need it, when you want it, you can get it. You can work hard and get it. Here in Sri Lanka, it's more like these lights that are in the studio. We actually made these. Okay. I mean, it's not that we're short of lights in Sri Lanka. It's just like, why not? Let's challenge ourselves to create something new and try something different with what's available. It's the same thing with camera gear. We tell young filmmakers as well. Yeah. Use a phone, and you can create some really cool stuff with a phone. Right. They're in agreement. I hope so.
I might have to join you for one of those courses as well.
That would be fun. Yeah, I remember, but you did a great job filming yourself climbing Everest. Like just watching the footage, seeing the GoPro, you were diligent with making sure you click record at certain points, talking to the camera in camp. That was really cool too. That was awesome. Because I would just think that's harder to film yourself while you're doing something that's hard already. I'm trying to film myself training sometimes, and I'm like, I just don't know how he did it. It's not easy.
It's tough, but you've got to keep it at the back of your mind, and I think that's what you taught me. Yeah, before I went. Yes, of course. You remember? I don't know if you remember, but we sat in this room and you showed me all the GoPros. You said, okay, this is what you need to do. Don't forget this. So this kept working at the back of my mind. Jason wanted me to do this. Jason wanted me to do this. And that was at the back of my mind all the time. Cool. Yeah. So,
That's awesome. That's so cool. Yes, I do remember that. That's exciting. So, you're doing this. You're doing the hair designing stuff in Sri Lanka and raising communities to actually be a part of this industry at some point in the future. And then you're taking some people out to base camp.
Yeah.
Would you ever take people after training them, like this group of people that you're going with? Do you think you'll take them to the top at some point?
Oh, a good question. A tough one. But certainly if there is somebody that I see would have potential, and if I think that I can be of help and I can be the side support to them actually getting there, I'm sure I'll go all the way. And I'll go all the way and I'll do it. Just to be there and be supportive, because I know how much that means to somebody. And besides just going alone, to have somebody there to support you, to be a strength behind you, it means a lot. And I think I would do it for somebody if they're willing to go.
Absolutely. I can see that. But you've done more than just achieve what you've achieved. I think you've just broken a barrier. You've set a reference point for all Sri Lankans. that look at not just Everest, but with achieving goals like the way you have. You've set like a new reference point, and now that doesn't seem like it's so far-fetched for us at all.
No, it's not. I think, like I said, if you're determined, if you have the perseverance and you make up your mind, you can achieve most of your goals. Yeah,
I agree. I agree so much. So Johann, thank you so much. I know this has been short and sweet, but we should have you back post your climb with the new group of fellows that you're taking up there. And yes, if you want to follow Johann, make sure that you check him out on Instagram, right? That's where you do most of your updates.
Yes,
because that's how I followed you through your Pecco Trail adventure.
Right.
By the way, you did the Pecco Trail unofficially, right? Before it was open to the public?
Yes, I was the first Sri Lankan here to do it, who took it on, who took on the challenge before it opened.
Yeah.
And also I did it solo.
Yes, I heard. And then our friend Mark has something to say about that too, but we'll keep that out. But that's cool. Did you encounter any wildlife like when you were going through?
I did.
Leopards?
So there was a lot of leopard droppings around.
Ooh.
And it was fresh. They were all fresh, and one point was just infested with it.
No way.
Yeah. And it was thick jungle.
Mm-hmm.
There hadn't been human beings on that path because the path was closed.
Yes.
Yeah, through Horton Plains, a certain part of Horton Plains. And I knew I was being watched at times. I could hear the cracking of branches, the breaking of branches behind me, and I knew I was being watched. Yeah. But I wasn't fearful because I knew that leopards don't really come attack you like that unless they are threatened.
Yes.
Or they are injured.
Or they think you're a smaller animal.
Yes.
I've heard that's like some of the stories from back then.
Yeah, you got to stand tall. You got to sort of not... they have to feel intimidated by you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was singing. I was blowing my whistle. You know.
Like, all that Marianne's training came in handy.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of fear still. Yeah, within me. Now, what do I do if this guy comes at me? But then our dear friend Mark had given me a machete. Right? So I had Mark's machete in my hand.
Yeah.
And I proceeded, and it was amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
My worry was actually having wild boar coming at you because they can be quite aggressive.
Yeah, I've heard they take out kneecaps first.
Yeah,
that's what they go for.
They're really aggressive. And one of the things I'm scared of is snakes. So in the lower areas, I was watching out for snakes.
Yep.
There's a cobra that crossed my path.
Okay.
But I slowly sat back and waited till it went across. So there were lots of encounters like that. There were deer running all over, you know, rabbits running all the time. There were small animals, big animals.
Yeah.
And it was really, really interesting. It was an interesting challenge for me to take on for myself and to actually try out the Pecco Trail and give feedback for it as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
And now the Pecco Trail is open out to the public for people to...
Yes, it is. Parts of it, most of it is open.
Yep.
They're still finalizing and finishing up the last bit of it, which should be done in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And now I'm taking groups up there and taking them on tours there.
Wow, that's so cool.
It's interesting.
That's something that I would definitely recommend for anybody to do to experience Sri Lanka is the trail.
It's a beautiful way of getting to know the hill country and discovering what we have to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's exciting. That really is exciting. I can't wait to do that too. I should join the next Pecco Trail excursion. Yeah. All right, Johann. So thank you so much again for your time, and we should connect with you again once you're back from your fellows up in base camp, and then do the next episode. Post a Pecco Trail walk, where I should definitely join, and maybe take some of the interns with us. What do you guys say? Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
It's a win.
They're all up for it.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah. So make sure you check out Johann on Instagram at Johann_Peiris.
That's right.
I got it right.
Wow.
Yes, I know. And keep tabs on Johann as he takes on the Everest Base Camp with a whole group of people from Sri Lanka and India and Australia as well. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I'm No.Expert. We love you guys. Make sure you subscribe and leave a comment below on who you would like to see next. Thanks again. Thanks.
Bye.
Johann.
Bye. Thank you.